Riding a gravel event could well be a little bit different to what you're used to, whether that's road racing or sportives or just a local club run. Endurance, self-sufficiency and comfort could well become more important, and so your training is going to need to reflect that. As Katherine here knows all about, she's currently preparing for her first major gravel event, the Dirty Kanza.
Yeah, and as I try and figure out my training, setup and equipment for the race, we thought we'd go about making a guide for you guys too. So here's how to get the best out of your first gravel event.
To the mountain.
As with preparing for any event, the first thing you should do is actually choose and then enter your event.
Well, thanks for pointing out the obvious with that one there, Si.
That's all right, that's what I'm here for.
In my case, the Dirty Kanza is a 200-mile gravel endurance race across the Flint Hills of Kansas in the States.
I am so jealous about that. Now, how ambitious you're feeling is going to depend a little bit, I guess, on how experienced you are at bike riding, so whether you're new to the sport or whether you've been doing it for a few years. But the usual advice is to choose something that is manageable, okay? So something that you do think that you are actually going to be able to complete. If it's too hard, you might not enjoy it quite so much. Now, to put it in a different kind of context, you're probably not going to choose a 5-day stage race as your first road race, and so the same principle, of course, applies to gravel.
Yeah, that's not really a bit of advice I've followed there, Si, is it?
You will be absolutely fine. Right, now, once you have chosen your event, the next thing you need to do is actually start to work out what training you need to get you there in the best possible shape.
So having a structured training plan can really help you get the most out of your event. I'm really lucky to have Ollie, who's my coach, talk me through what I should be doing in preparation for Dirty Kanza. So Ollie, what's the main difference between a gravel event and a typical road event like a sportive or a club run, and how can you prepare for that?
So your gravel events, sportive sword axes, are just taking the difficulty of a long ride up a notch. Okay, so on a normal long distance ride, what we're trying to do is ride as efficiently as possible. Okay, so an easier ride, dead flat, and you can ride at a standard power and heart rate and effort. Okay, as soon as you're starting adding climbs, what that's doing is throwing you away from the average. So you're getting peaks and troughs in your ride. That's going to make it harder work. Once you start throwing in gravel and climbs, it's double hard. Okay, so what that's doing is it's trying to throw you away from that average power, making you work less efficiently and therefore making the ride a lot harder.
So how are we going to work over from the past few months right the way up to Dirty Kanza to make sure that we're training as efficiently as possible, especially given limited time?
So if you look at the event you're doing, obviously 200 miles off-road, the two things we need to focus on is endurance and then your aerobic fitness as well. Okay, so most people think of it as the same, but actually we want to try and split the two. Your aerobic fitness is the amount of power you can produce without becoming inefficient and going into an anaerobic state. Okay, so and then your endurance is the ability to be able to keep that power going for a really long period of time. All right, so what we can do, your shorter sessions, so your commutes to work, your rides up to maybe an hour or two, which is probably 2 or 3 a week, we can focus on that aerobic fitness. So that's not necessarily loads of base miles, but it's working below your threshold, so you can still have control of your breathing. But then we're going to be working at blocks 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Some people would have seen it kind of sweet spot efforts work quite well. They're kind of 15, 20 minutes, and they're going to try and push up your fitness. And then on your longer weekend ride, then we're going to really focus on your endurance. So that's the thing with endurance, muscle endurance, it's been able to do thousands and thousands of revolutions, some of them climbing, so slightly slower. So you're going to get stronger muscles. And then the other thing is that fat efficiency. So you're not just using carbs as a fuel source, you're using fat, which of course we've all got plenty of.
And in terms of building up to an event like Dirty Kanza, many people at home might tend to do like shorter events. Yep. Some people will already be accustomed to riding really long distances. Yep. But for someone, for example, who's been riding cyclocross races, which are only 40 minutes throughout the winter, how do you build up from going from 40 minutes to 200 miles? Yeah,
I mean, it's a big, you've always got your exercise history that you've got. You've done some audaxes in the past, so that helps. You'll revert back to that in your new training. The key is just building up slowly. Normally suggest that people build up the duration all the rides first, and then add the ascent next. Okay, it's the ascent and the climbing that will cause the problems. If you start throwing in loads of climbing from day one, so maybe your rides are 1,000 meters and you suddenly go to 3,000, that's when quite a lot of the niggles and injuries can kick in. So we want to build up the duration first, so flatter rides. Bit boring, I know, but you can build up the flatter rides first. Once you've got that up to maybe 80% of your distance, then you can start adding in maybe more gravel sections, more climbing sections. But what you don't want to do is start jumping in from 100k to 100 miles gravel with loads of climbing. Too big a jump, so just think of small increments, maybe 10% per ride, I think is the maximum.
And in terms of if you're living in an area that isn't particularly hilly, or if you're training for a hilly gravel race, and you don't have that available to you, what sort of other changes can you do to sort of simulate that? So
what you want to do is look at the amount of climbing you're going to do and roughly try and work out how much of that climbing is going to take in terms of minutes. So you might think that in your ride you're going to spend maybe 2 hours of climbing. Now you're not going to do that around the Mendip Hills local to us. So what we're going to do is add in maybe 60 minutes of climbing, but then include maybe a building up to 60 minutes of other riding where we're going to kind of simulate climbing. So you might be in a slightly harder gear, so a climbing power, and then just drop the cadence a bit. So we might not be actually climbing up a hill, but what you're going to do is be doing the same cadence and the same power. So maybe 70 or 80 revolutions in a slightly higher power for blocks on the flat, plus your climbing. So in the overall ride, you've then got your 2 hours of real world climbing.
Training for your event isn't just about getting your body in shape, but also your head, giving you enough confidence to get through the event as enjoyably as possible. It's also a great opportunity to test out things that are going to be really important for your event, such as your kit and your nutrition.
That's right, those long training rides in particular are the perfect opportunity to have a little play around and try different things. It is okay to make your mistakes in training. In fact, that's the best place to do it, because then that should leave everything running nice and smoothly for the event itself. And it is always worth bearing in mind that gravel events tend to leave you a little bit more isolated perhaps than road events, so you're going to need to be prepared to be a bit more self-sufficient. So it's also worth thinking about what tools you're going to need to take with you, and in fact where you're actually going to take them on the bike, so your luggage that you're going to have with you.
Yeah, you also should think about your clothing, your bike choice, even your tyres, and even your gearing.
That's right, and then of course the big ones as well. Hydration, so are you going to be able to take enough fluid with you on the bike to get you through between feed zones or for the whole event itself? And of course, what are you going to eat as well? These are big topics and we are going to cover them in their own separate videos in the future.
We hope that you found these tips helpful in planning and riding your first gravel event.
Yeah, if you've got any others to add into the mix, then why not get involved in the comments section down below? Be very interested to read those.
Yeah, and if it's some more gravel action that you're looking for here on GCN, then check out this one when Si and Dan rode 650B wheels off-road.